Hey, good morning and very warm welcome to all of you to this online workshop on additive manufacturing for healthcare, the next frontier. I'm Anil Chopra, VP CMR and research editor at Cyber Media Group of Publications. We have a number of interesting sessions lined up for you today, and I'm sure you'll find them all very, very insightful. Before we begin, just note that all lines are going to be in mute and listen only mode. So if any of you have any questions, do post them in the chat window in front of you or in the Q&A window that is there in front of you. We'll have a Q&A at the end of all the sessions today. But do keep your questions flowing in so that we can, make a note of those and answer them in the end. To kind of set the context for today, additive manufacturing, or 3D printing has been gaining a lot of popularity because of the immense benefits it actually offers. In fact, India is seeing a year-on-year growth of 30% in this 3D printing technologies, and in healthcare specifically, the 3D printing medical devices market, was valued at around 54 million last year, and it's expected to grow at 20% and become more than 200 million in the next 7 years. So it's a powerful technology that can actually transform orthopedic care. And with this, orthopedic specialists can design and, produce medical devices tailored to each patient's need and anatomy. It can result in, a better fit, function, and comfort for patients with reduced risk of infection and rejection. So that's why in today's workshop, we'll talk about how this technology can actually help orthopedic professionals, save them time, money, by enabling faster prototyping and production of high quality devices. And for this, we have with us today industry leaders from additive manufacturing space, and they're going to be sharing their expertise around various aspects of this technology. So without any further delay, it's my pleasure to introduce you to our first speaker, Rajat Mehta, who is the business manager ROA for personalization in 3D printing at HP. Thanks, Rajat, and over to you.
Am I audible now?
Right. Yes, you're audible.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining. Before I start, I want to make a fine print that we are not trying to sell you any equipment here, and it's not a sales kind of a webinar. It's more of a knowledge sharing, and with that intent, I want to start. My name is Rajat Mehta, and I work for Hewlett Packard. I've been with HP for now 24 years and worked in various technology domain. For past 7 years, I have been with 3D printing. What you see at the back here is basically a digital factory, how a digital factory looks like when you do it at scale. I appreciate that a lot of you will be new to 3D printing, so I will try to keep it as jargon free as possible. And obviously, I'm not a doctor, so I will keep my talk in English, and I will request you to translate and interpret in your medical terms. Now, today we will cover basically, I will have one slide on what HP is, while most of you will know what HP is. Then we will talk about additive manufacturing, and we will talk about orthosis prosthetics, medical equipment, and dental. And we'll talk a little bit on material, and last one slide will be on the portfolio. As I said, the intention is not to sell you anything right today, but for you to start using these technology. These are being used globally, and we feel that Indian doctors are using it. Sometimes they're importing it from outside, but we have enough capacity in India to manufacture for you. So we thought it will be a good idea to share some of that case studies which we have done around India, so that you adapt this technology. Now, this is the only slide I have on HP. So we are a large company. Most of you are using laptops, printers from our side. We are a $63 billion company globally. We are around $2 billion in India. We have 58,000 employees, 250K channel partners, 180 country presence, 28,000 plus patents, and we are listed for Fortune 59. So we are fairly large. The reason why I put this slide is to give you that comfort that we have enough means and ways to manage a technology like 3D, which is evolving and it's evolving very fast. So you require a lot of investment in R&D, and you'll be happy to note that we almost invested $1 billion in R&D and getting new material, new applications ready for 3D printing. With that, we move into an introduction of additive manufacturing. Since a lot of you are new, basically what we do on 3D printing is we work on a computer model. So we take a computer model, we convert that into a STL file. Using the software, we basically then create a slice. We start slicing it horizontally or vertically, and then we get a layer information. This layer information is printed one by one on 3D printer and is stuck together on top of each other. To simplify it further, it is like if I give you a apple cut into horizontal slices and I ask you to assemble the apple back, you will basically put one layer, one slice on top of the other slice, and you build the apple. You will have to put a sticking liquid or something to stick the apples together. Okay, to make the whole apple again. Even more simpler is that you all have used 2D printers. If I start taking prints one after the other for every layer, like what you see here, every layer, if I take a print and stick them together, it becomes a 3D object. And that's how the basic principle of 3D printing works on, that we add material to create the part. Okay. In your case, it could be a socket, it could be a AFO, it could be a denture, or anything else. Now, human bodies are complicated. Okay, unlike mechanics or machines, where you can define a force in X, Y, Z or a stress or strain. On a human body, for example, a leg, when a person is walking, it's a complicated mechanism. And complicated mechanism means that there is a force which is acting in X, Y, and Z direction, stress, strain, and there is also a torsion because a person can twist the ankle and then the whole bone structure actually get torsion, or it can be shear, like it could be a shearing force. So what happens is when you are using artificial socket or you're using a bionic arm, you have to take cater for the strength so that the person while walking should not damage the socket or his body part. So that is one part of the challenge. The second part of the challenge is because there's so much complex mechanisms involved or in walking or in moving the hand, that sometimes you would see that conventionally designed socket, the person will walk crooked, like they won't be able to walk straight after they have a implant or a socket artificial leg, and they walk slightly crooked. The reason is that the fitment is not so great because it's done manually. So that are some of the reasons why we feel that now a 3D printing technology is apt to be adopted, and we have multiple case studies, and you can write to us directly and we'll be able to provide it to you. Now, as I said, the strength of the material or the binding. So if as you're creating layer by layer, the stickiness of the two layers is important. And that comes to the choices of the technology. There are many choices which are there in 3D printing. Some of you who are from AIMS probably are using some of these technology. There are other hospitals who are using filament-based printers. But the problem right now is that if you take it to a real human, sometimes either the fitment is not proper or the strength is not proper. So HP chose a different technology, and I'll explain you how this technology works. We use a powder based technology. So basically I'm going a little technical so that you appreciate that the final output which you get from the printer has the strength to take care of patient's load, not only the static load, but also when the person is walking or twisting or dancing, that load is taken care. So we basically layer a powder of 80 microns. On top of it, we inject two liquids. One is detailing agent and one is fusing agent. And then we use an infrared light to melt that plastic and become a first layer. Okay. Wherever we had detailing agent, the fusion will stop. So basically, it will it will help getting the sharp features in our print. And then once this layer is printed, then we put another 80 micron powder, and then we use again infrared light to make the part. Okay, so this is a basic process. Now, because we are using two agents here, we can vary the agent type to get different type of output from the printer, whether it's a colored output or a white output, depending on the requirement. Now, the first topic which we'll cover very quickly is orthosis and prosthetics. What I will do is basically give you some examples, and then after my presentation, I'll hand it over to Franklin from Premium, who do a lot of case studies in the Indian market to share live examples with you. Now, all of you who are orthopedic surgeons, doctors, know the challenges. You know it much better than we do, what challenges you face. But just to summarize them, when you are doing manually, when you are making a socket, when you are making a bionic arm, when you are making an arm manually or making a clear aligner manually, there are inconsistencies, because what happens is you are using the labor you are using, or the person who is making those uh, has to depend on look and feel from his hand. So he's making a plaster, and I'll show you one video to make it clarify. So the quality is inconsistent, and typical example, you will see a lot of people on the walking on the road are not walking straight when they are having artificial legs. Patient data is only patient data is digitized, not a final part. So what happens is when you are manually doing it, and even if you're using a CNC machine to cut out the part or the mold, the final part once it's ready is not digitized back. So again, there is a break there. Okay, then there is you need a lot of space to do it. If there's anybody from an organization like Endolite, you will see that you have fairly large clinics to manage this. Requires multiple setup. The waste is very high, and obviously you require intensive work to get these pairs out. Now, these are some of the conventional implants or orthosis prosthetic devices which are available in India right now. Uh, Most of the popular or the low volume ones are from Jaipur Foot, for example. Very conventional, but they did a great job of giving help and support to a lot of patients when India did not have any technologies. But now we have a lot of companies who have international tie-ups, and they're importing these sockets from outside. But we feel that still there is a lot of headroom to provide a local made in India sockets which are much better and much comfortable for the patient. Also, because this is a human life which we are talking about, the strength and the overall fitment has to be accurate. This is how a manual process is. So you basically take sheets, you dip it in a liquid, and then you basically create a mold around that amputated leg or hand or whatever. Now, if you see, the person is very dependent on the skill of the person who is doing it. So if you have a new operator or a new a clinician who is trying to do it, he might have apply more pressure or less pressure, which will result in a fitment which is not accurate as per the amputated leg. Finally, it has to sit here. But if you don't get this geometry right, it will be very uncomfortable. And this is when you are just doing a fitment. But a person, when he's walking, as I mentioned, it will be stress, strain, and shear and twist. And all those forces will act on it. And that's why you see a lot of these primitive ones, people use foams and cottons to make it little comfortable while walking. Now, in a digital workflow, you basically will have a mobile phone or a tablet. So, suppose you are using an iPhone or you're using an iPad or a Samsung phone, there will be application which will be loaded inside. You will scan the amputated leg. So, basically, the leg which is remaining, the portion which is remaining, or the hand which is remaining, you will scan it. Then the scan data will go into the computer. We will create a solid model out of it, and we will create a slice file. This will go into our printer. Then you finally get the part out, which is the final part required, and then you will clean it. You can also paint it, do secondary treatment to make it beautiful and comfortable. You can have two material, like outside can be a hard material, inside can be soft material, and finally you do color finishing or dyeing to make this part ready. And what you get, this is the how the printer is. So everything like is automated here. I've given an example of spectacles because it's easier to see on the screen. So multiple spectacles are being printed in one go. Similarly, multiple sockets can be printed in one go. Each of the socket will be customized to that particular patient. It's not that one patient, but you can have 10 different patient sockets being printed in one setup, and each will be personalized, and you could have traceability by having a barcode, a patient information, patient number written on the part. So every part which comes out of the printer will be a customized one. And this is some of the output which comes out. So if you're looking at orthosis insoles, like India has 140, 150, 150 crores kind of population now, unofficially. We are 141 as per the last data, but we had that in 2021. So we have 2 years, so we will be crossing 150 crores, and their diabetic patients are very, very high. And one of the problems diabetic patients have is basically problems in feet, and you need insoles to support them, and these insoles can be done as per patient requirement. Also, people have things like flat foot. So we provide scanners. The person will put the foot on the scanner. We'll take the stress pattern. Using the stress pattern, we are able to create a insole. So even if two patients are wearing shoe size 8, but with the insole, that shoe becomes customized to support that person medically or wise or a sport wise. So like if you are into sports medicine, a lot of these runners now use insoles which are customized to their feet to make it happen. Also, if people break their arms, gone are the days when you had plaster of Paris plasters, which were very, very inconvenient. You can have 3D printed uh, casts like this, which are made. They are completely aerated, they look nice, and obviously you don't have this itching or skin infection happening because they are well aerated. Cranial helmets are another one. Children with skull defects need protection, and you cannot have solid plastic helmets put on their heads because they are kids. So a cranial helmet is basically a light-weighted, hollowed, which helps in good aeration. So there's a lot of air which can pass through, and they can wear these, and that helps children recover faster and also protect their skull. These are some of the other example. This is very, very interesting from CrossFit, where you have a socket. Below that, you have assembly of metal, and then you again have a polymer. The beauty of this is that it has got strength, it has got functionality. Person can wear it and walk with it. These are scoliosis braces. Either you have a spinal defect and you need support, or you had somebody had a surgery and they needed a cover or to help them out. This is another example. This is a bionic arm or a prosthetic arm, and we have a couple of startups in India who are already doing it using our system. So there's a range of equipment or fitments which can be printed using 3D technology. This is for this cranial helmet. This is for AFO, and you can see that this from the design is so much lighter than the conventional one. It's well aerated, looks nice, and it's quite invisible from a per se of, instead of having a huge big cast where you are not able to wear your normal clothes, with these on, you can actually wear normal clothes and it will be hidden. Then you have various finishing. You can do, this will be what is raw, then you can dye it, and you can have paints and other finishes to basically make sure that aesthetically it is looking very, very nice. Now, there's a lot of computer or a computer or electronic work which happens, and we are happy to provide you trainings and services around this. Like Arise in US is our own brand where we do that work, but where you can see the scanner here, the person is putting her feet down. The scanner is taking the stress pattern, this coming on the computer, and then we will use it for 3D printing. I gave you example of sports. This is how the lattice structure of a power performance shoe is. And instead of using a normal sole, we start using this. A lot of companies like Nike, Reebok, and I have started using this for sports. This is another AFO. Okay. So all these areas like geometry, automation, part optimization, body scan to part, cosmetic finishing, lattice structuring, additive product design. We provide it as a service, and I'm very happy that one of our partners will be talking today in the end of how they use generative design and to make things lighter and stronger. And the outcome, obviously, of using 3D printing is very, very impressive. The and it gives more options for the doctors. It gives good selections for the patients, and end of the day, the patients have a better experience of person using a 3D printed socket and running. Case with medical equipment, I'm not sure if there anybody from medical equipment companies here, but again, we have challenges there. We have product differentiation. Actually, when you are doing medical equipment, and let me give you one simple example. Uh, when we buy a glucometer from the market, typically the glucometer will cost around 800 to 1000 rupees, and that most of the cost actually is from the tooling required to produce the casing and things like that. But if for first batch of say 15,000, 20,000 glucometer, you start using 3D printing, it will definitely help to reduce the lead time. It will You can differentiate the product, like each of the glucometer can have the patient name, or you can have versions or variations very, very quickly. You can have short runs, so you don't have to go in for mass production, and you can produce where the requirement is. And obviously these material which we use for printing are medically certified, so we comply to medical regulations. The 3D printing will give you design freedom, cost reduction, and quick time to market. And these are some of the examples. It could be the covers for medical equipment. It could be your portable handheld device. So if you're using, say, X-ray for dental and you want to handheld X-ray, or you're scanning a feet and you want it to be handheld, all these levers and the handles can be 3D printed. If you have specialized machines for blood tests or things like that, and you want high rotational support for your wires to go around, those can be completely 3D printed. So you don't have to wait for the tooling. And people who are engineers, who are from medical field, the tooling is expensive and you can save a lot of cost. Also for animal, you can have a lot of support systems 3D printed. People who are into putting sensors on the head and mapping unknown brain. Like we still know around 1% or 2% of the brain. Rest is still under research. So a lot of people require a lot different kind of sensors. All these sensors can be 3D printed and then electronic integrated with those 3D printed outer shells. Again, we can dye it, we can paint it to give a real finish. So you can supply these components or the equipment to your customers without actually manufacturing it using tooling. We have a lot of engineering material, and in the interest of time, I will not go into too much of details, but these are all engineering material. We have proper medically certified because we have crystalline material as well as elastomers. You can see that on this socket, you have external hard plastic, which is PA12, which was coming from here, and internally we use a TPU to make it soft. So it not only is a functional, you have a lot of electronics integrated here, but you have also comfortable because you're using a softer material. And then you have all the tests which are required, which are already done and provided with. And my side of the presentation right now is covering anything which touches the body. What we will cover in the later presentation by Franklin would be when you want to do inserts also. We'll cover that too. Okay. This is our portfolio and probably my last slide. You have production machine, and as I said, we are not looking at any one of you currently looking at purchasing a machine. What we are interested is that to work with you to see if we can apply our process and help you give a better patient outcome. We have enough capacity in India right now to make those things possible. Once you get up to the speed and scale, then obviously we can supply the machines, and we can also lease the machine. You don't have to outrightly buy it, but we can train, lease the machine, and also do consulting services. But that comes in later. The idea of today's presentation was to basically give you a quick rundown of what we can do, share some of the India case studies. We have partner from our Singapore office who will talk about how they use generative design. This should give you a good overview of what we can deliver to you. And my request to you is, if you have a cell phone handy, you can note down my numbers, or you can call me anytime, or connect on the LinkedIn, so that if you have a requirement, you just have to drop in a note and we will take care from there. So with that, I will introduce Franklin. Franklin is Chief Operating Officer of Premium. They are a leading design house. They work with a lot of doctors, clinicians, to provide not only orthosis, prosthetic, dental equipment, but they also do inserts and implants. And I'm sure their case studies will definitely help you relate back to your work and see where you can use this technology. So with that, I will stop sharing and I'll hand over to Franklin. Franklin, over to you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Rajatji, for this wonderful introduction, and nice you have covered the points for healthcare. Yeah, very good morning to everyone. Today we are going to talk about the revolution of the healthcare with 3D printing. My topic will be more on the accelerate patient care, minimize the surgical procedures, and ease of surgery using multi-jet fusion technology in 3D printing. Also, as Mr. Rajat was talking about, we will be talking a little bit about the implants also in this presentation. So, importance of 3D printing in healthcare is basically on the customization. Today, the each human anatomy is different, so people need to have a personalized implants as well as the personalized prosthetics, precise and complexity. Today, what Mr. Rajat was talking about is on the precision of a component when you make a manual CNC as well as the 3D printing. 3D printing gives more precise fit as well as for the individual anatomy. And we talk about more on the anatomical model for the hands-on training program, or to give a pre-surgical planning for the doctors or a patients to have. So in a nutshell, 3D printing importance in healthcare is to have a precise, personalized, and cost-effective solution. So 3D printing technology have many technology. You have multi-jet fusion, electron beam melting technology, you have binder jet. So each one is being used for different kind of applications. So before 3D printing, there is a connect between medical imaging and 3D printing. So there are two files required for any kind of a design if you want to go forward on an implant design. The first one is the CT scan, the second one is the MRI scan. So CT is basically a cross-sectional image of the body, the bone density, and the internal structural of an organ, which is required to have an ideal of an, this is basically ideal for your orthopedic implant design. MRI is a detailed image of a soft tissue, muscles, organ, and the brain. This is basically to understand the neurosurgical requirement of the medical image, which supports for the anatomic printing as well as for the surgical planning as well as for your implant designing. So first, let's look into the surgical planning and training. First, we start with the visualization of the patient anatomy using the 3D visualization. That is, only doctors can able to see the file in CT or MRI one. But if I am a patient, I want to understand where exactly I have a concern, what defect I have, where exactly the tumor, what kind of prosthetics they are going to use in my anatomy. Then you can visualize the anatomy of the patient. Then it comes to your preoperative assessment. A group of doctors discuss for your any surgery, say example, your plastic surgeon, your neurosurgeon, or your anesthetician, or your general surgeon. So it gives you an overview of a preoperative assessment, gives a surgical plan, what exactly we need to do at what time. It also reduces the risk mitigation when you go for a 3D modeling kind of a thing, hands-on simulation. Today, doctors are doing a little bit practice before they go to the surgery table, what they have to do on that. And it gives a team collaborative approach. Also, patient gets an education what is going to happen in the surgical theater, and it is a complex and rare condition. Post-operative assessment also can be done after we implant the patient-specific implant, or after the post-surgery, we can able to study from the X-rays or MRI what it is happening on that. With coming to the patient-specific implant printing, there are orthopedic implants basically to have a repair or replace joints or bones. Custom prosthetics, this widely talked, Mr. Rajat has already talked about the artificial limb or a replacement of your leg or hand, or a recreating your amplitude kind of a part. Then one more topic is on the dental devices, what you do on the cosmetic dentistry area of the healthcare. So here I'm going to talk about few of our case studies, what we have done on the healthcare side. The first one is on the knee ankle orthosis. Today, what Mr. Rajat is covered, now it is basically on the case study purpose. So we reviewed a case. This is an 15-year-old girl came to us for a concern on the knee ankle orthosis. The issue is left leg is having a nervous disorder. Then diagnosis done by the device company, the prosthetic device company, is on the stiff leg involving the muscles. So we want to give a knee ankle foot orthosis, which is a customized design, and she want to have it. But one challenge we had is that she was having a mentally challenged one. We are not able to communicate what exactly we want to do with respect to the designing aspect. So if you see on the right side of the picture, this is how we have done. So first thing is the 3D scanning. So we have both handheld scan as well as the fixed scan. We try to scan her leg, and we convert the scanned data of whatever file according to our design requirement. Then we created a lattice structure for her to have the ventilation on the particular leg portion. So this is the top portion and this is the bottom portion of it. This is to give one on the weight reduction area. Earlier, if you see in the middle of the picture, she will be having the entire structure with the molded one, which cages around 8 kg of the component. Now, see here, the simplest form, also she has the customized one. Here, one mechanism we have given, if you see on the right side of your picture, it is a mechanism to correct the angle of every 3 degrees. So that once in 21 days or once in a month, when she goes to the doctor can able to rearrange or refix the angle depending upon the stiffness is getting relaxed. So this is one of the case what we have done on the patient specific, lightweight, and also for the air ventilated component. This is the final component what we have delivered to the patient. So it is around a year now. So she is comfortably living with this. Now, with respect to the second case study on the healthcare, product is not only used for the human being. Now, if you see, this is a laparoscopic equipment cover. On the surgery room, you have a laparoscopic device. See the right-hand side of your image. People used to have a hole and then do the surgery using that length. Once it is taken out, and they will clean it and just keep it on the table of the surgery table. There is always the risk of getting damaged or dropped from the table to the floor. So, and a hospital came to us what we can able to do on this. So we made a customized cover where once the surgery over, then cleaning process is over, the doctor can just insert it just near to the shelf, or he can able to place as a holder of here. See on your left hand side, just lock it with this locking mechanism so that it is fixed. Whenever you require, just take it out and use it. So 3D printing helps to give a customized solution for the equipment manufacturers as a protective cover. See, these are required only one number for a hospital. So for that hospital, no need to invest on injection molding component or look for a big cover kind of a thing. This solution we did it around a year and a half before, and now based on their success, few more hospitals have come across to us and they are asked for this kind of solution. We are delivered this kind of solution. So only thing we need to do is the scanning of the laparoscopic device and design requirement according to the need. See, we have both short as well as the long term. For the long term, what we have done is on the two-piece arrangement, including the thread option, so that they can able to open it. If they want to clean the lens, they can clean it at the bottom of the lens, and again they need to put the cover. The good solution from the NGF is we can able to make a thread in the design, and as printed we can able to get the thread on the component. Now with respect to the another case study on the orthosis, patient came to us is on the only they need the mechanism. They don't want to go forward on the orthosis of both knee or as well as on the limb area. So we have given only the mechanism how we are given on the first case study. The mechanism can rotate up to 360 degree with a 10-degree increment value, which gives more freedom for a patient or a doctor to adjust with respect to the orthosis, the wrist orthosis movement. So this is one of the case study what we have done for the on the prosthetic side. Now this is our live case study what we had at our facility. We are a part of a manufacturing company called Sunfab. We do a sheet metal components from 0.5 mm to 65 mm sheet metal. When the on the
Franklin, we can't hear you.
the 3D printing team started working on it, how we can able to work on this particular aspect. So we designed the splint, which is customizable, and also see the design. We have given the lattice structure on the particular area where the people can have it just on your Velcro attachment. And this is a common requirement for any kind of a person can use it. Now we are not having any kind of a defect for our workers. So this is 3D printed in HP MJF with a nylon 12 material, and our people started using it on their day-to-day activity. Now let's come to the implantable prosthetics. Whatever we saw is on the outside the human body. Now we are going to talk about the inside the human body, which is a 3D printed component. The first case study is called as unilateral zygomatic implant. In common man's language, we were talking about the black fungus during the COVID time. So people used to lose the bone on your left hand side. If you see, this is how the patient will lose the bone. Then we got the MRI file from the hospital and we converted the DICOM file into the STL file, that is a 3D model file, and we understood where exactly the concern is. Then we also have our in-house maxillofacial surgeon who will discuss with the patients or the hospital's surgeon, try to understand what exactly the patient want to go forward, whether it is only the aesthetical requirement or he need to regain the functionality requirement of the bite correction, or he need to have preserve the soft tissue or to minimize the post-operative discontinuities. So our engineering team along with the clinical team try to understand, and then they propose the first design kind of a thing to the hospital. Sorry about it. So this is the first design we are given. This is without your orbital floor. And then when we have a discussion with the doctor, they want to have a orbital floor also along with this requirement. So we are given the orbital floor in the design 2. Then doctor gave us the feedback. They also want to have an abutment to give the teeth provision on this. So this is our design 3, and we have given after mutual discussion with the doctor. When we have a abutment length, also we did the bite correction discussion. Then we have redesigned the size of the abutment provision, and we have given the multi-unit abutment. This is a final abutment, a final design with the zygomatic and the orbital with the multilateral unit abutment. See the final implant, which is a titanium one, 3D printed, and then we move forward for the patient. surgery. So this is the intraoperative images. And second case study which we want to do is on the trauma patient who had a fall from a motorcycle. He had a cheek cut. This is a cut. So we designed within 12 hours of time, we designed a customized plate with a Z kind of a profile. And we have sent this. This is a 3D printed in MGF model. This is an unpickable model. And we have sent it to the doctor, just printed in a low height, which just printed in 4 hours time and cool it to another 2 hours, 6 hours print. And this is a titanium bone parallel we have printed and given to to the doctor for his understanding. And it is well executed for the patient. One more case study we want to talk about on the metal implant. This is how the patient had the amyoblast cranio involvement in the left mandibular requirement. And the same way what we have done with the patient one, so we got the DICOM file, then converted into, and then we understood the right side of the portion has to be completely replaced with the titanium one. But here the criticality is that we need to have, you see the center picture of it. This is called the condyle area, and also here you have a fossa. This is what a very critical area. Each human has a different bite. If I eat a veg or non-vegetarian, you have a different kind of a bite. So this center portion plays a major role. So we used to do a FE analysis, and also we will have a joint study of both fossa as well as the condyle requirement too before we go forward on this. Here the concern is we need to keep the fibula bone on the center portion of the metal. That is the backside the metal, we want to have the fibula bone. So we need to have a cutting guide for the fibula bone. So what doctors will do is that they will take 100 mm of your bone, and during the surgery, individual pieces will be cut and fitted into the fibula, the mandibular area. But 3D printing gives a pre-surgical planning where we can able to go forward on the exactly what dimension you need to cut and which bone you need to take. You can able to design it and take a bone out of it. See, this is how the fibula bone will be placed. In our case study, say example, we have printed this fibula bone. If you see on the right side, this is a fibula bone we have printed in MGF technology and cut it, and then we have showed to the doctor this is how the demo will be there. And see on the right hand side, this is the titanium implant we are given along with the fibula bone and the cutting guide. So in a nutshell, the additive manufacturing gives the speedy requirement of a solution to the patient, to the precise requirement for the patient, cost effective, sustainable, and the quality assured product for any of your complex needed for the patient implant. Just to introduce about our company in a very short, our company name is called as Premium Solutions Private Limited, your doorstep to the world of additive manufacturing. So we are basically, as I said, we are basically a manufacturing company. We are into the sheet metal fabrication. We have invested in the additive manufacturing, the name of Premium Solution. We started in 2019. We are the only company in South India have both metal and polymer in the industrial grade 3D printing. We work on the functional prototypes. So these are the fleets of machine. We have 2 are in metal and 4 are in thermoplastic. We can happily say that, or proudly say that, we have taken the second machine from HP. We are the company who have both nylon 12 material, TPU, and polypropylene material in India to support the entire material gamut from the HP portfolio. We work for healthcare. Already I've talked about what we do for healthcare, and also we work for aerospace and engineering application. This is our certification. So healthcare, basically we work on the patient specific implants and surgical guides. These are our solutions. And prosthetics, design for implants and medical device. Medical device, we support to the startup companies to come up with their ideas, start designing their the device, and some components will go for 3D printing, prove the concept, and they will go for the market. Then we support them on the virtual surgical planning and anatomical model for the pre-surgical requirement. Also, we support on the design, training, and development of implants for the doctors or the biomedical engineers who want to start their career in this particular area. So as on today, we have done around 180 plus implants in last 24 months. We work mostly on the neck and head area. Few we did it on the orthopedic on the implant, and a few cases on the prosthetics. So these are our mission criteria. I'm just skipping this already. Mr. Rajat has covered surgical guides in stainless steel material. So this is how we support doctors. This is right hand side how you see the diagram file we receive from on the MRI data, then convert them into the 3D model and give them the solution as it's required as your implant. So overall, what are the implants we do on the maxillofacial side? So this is our innovation and incubation center. We are tied up with the Materialize to help the startups, students, and the research scholars to come up with their innovative ideas to start in their respective 3D printing area. So metal implant, overview of our plant. So finally, 3D printing is moving towards, already we are into prosthetics, then internal implants, which is replacing bone. But a lot of R&D work is going on the tissue engineering or organ regeneration. So bioprinting like skin, bone, blood vessels, heart tissues, even organs like kidneys and livers are going on. So this reduced risk in reduced need for the donor. But immune response, long-term functionality, those are the areas things are going on. Hopefully in another 5 year or 10 year down the line, we may talk about on the tissue engineering 3D printing. So at last, I want to end up with the saying that the true value often lies in the satisfaction of knowing that your work contributes to solving real world problem and improving the quality of life for others. This is what we are trying to do. Thank you so much to HP team and Rajat sir for this wonderful opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Franklin. Now we have Joris Tebo from from Hypergenic, and he will talk about the software solution. As you saw when Franklin was presenting the case study, there's a lot of design work and software required to deliver a good outcome for 3D printing. And Joris will help us understand what solution they provide. Good part is that the entire SKU or entire solution will come from to you as a one envelope bundle from HP and its partners. So you don't have to look at talking to multiple vendors for your problem. We will have one vendor providing you with the entire solution. Initially, as I said, the intention is not to sell you the hardware or software, but to start helping you get on additive manufacturing, utilize this power to give a better patient outcome. And once you are comfortable with the solution and you are able to have case studies which generate good data for your ROI calculation, is when we help you implement this technology in-house. With that, I welcome Joris. This is the first presentation he's doing with us in India, and I hope this is just the beginning. Joris, over to you.
All right, thank you very much. Let me share my screen. So, okay, let me see. Can everybody see my screen? Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. So, first of all, thank you very much for the opportunity to speak. I think my colleagues already explained some quite interesting things that I will bring it a bit further from the software perspective. So maybe first a little bit about myself. I have a background in industrial design. I've been working for the last 18 years in additive manufacturing on the AM services and in the AM software side in roles like business development, project management, and consultancy. I've always specialized in end user applications, so that was always a focus for me. So in that sense, now I work for Hypergenic in the business unit of Hypergenic, where we focus on everything from, I would say, aerospace applications to medical applications, bioprinting, thermal management. So we always call it a holistic approach to applications. So so today, also maybe a little bit first about Hypergenic itself. Hypergenic is a German company with an office in Singapore. Hyperganic is known for, I would say, using computer code. So we developed our own software kernel based on voxels. For the people who don't know what voxels are basically 3D, a volumetric representation of matter. So imagine you have a 3D printer. You could really, what we always say, we can paint matter into space. So we could really say we can determine each voxel and we can give it a material characteristic if we want to. So we can already output towards multi-materials. But so that's one part. We use voxel engine. And the second part is we use computer code and algorithms to really create physical objects that then output towards additive manufacturing technologies. So that's what we're doing at Hyperganic. So today I would like to explain a little bit more how we at Hyperganic catalyze change in engineering innovation. So why we're basically here. So what we are saying is that it's not going fast enough, right? So mechanical engineering needs to evolve faster as a whole. Digital manufacturing has always had the promise to go much faster, but we see that, for example, in the world of AM, adoption is slow. So we're asking ourselves, why is that? Because AM has a huge potential, right? It has the potential to go faster to market, for example, to bring down certain costs, delivering cheaper products, enhancing performance, and a very important one, saving material costs, and addressing the bigger challenges of our time, which is things like climate change, for example. But why don't we see more adoption? The adoption is going very, very slow. We often see this as additive manufacturing as an evolution rather than a revolution, right? So we're still not seeing significant process like we see, for example, in the world of AI, where we see almost an immediate shift from something that was only living in the research area towards, like, I would say, mainly adoption now in a bigger area. Look at ChatGPT, for example. That's something we haven't seen in additive manufacturing yet. And we think there are several reasons for that. One of those is we believe that people are still hooked to their existing tools and the mindset needs to shift. Why is that? Because, for example, from a toolset side, we really need to harness the potential of digital manufacturing. So what hinders engineering from using digital manufacturing? We say, okay, this is the toolset they're using. We are seeing that many softwares are being used in one workflow. In between those workflows, we see there's an incompatibility. We see data loss. We see the larger the problem, the bigger basically this problem arises. We've also see that CAD has a certain limitation, right? So we see that in order to address these bigger problems, we really need to address how can we design with added complexity, but in an accessible way, right? So so this needs to change. We see also, for example, complexity is one thing, but we also need to have a proof point around it. So we need simulation for that, right? So we see already when we go to extreme complexity, simulation tools are struggling. We need to mesh our files, which is a manual process, right? So this also stops us from exploring bigger solution spaces, right? So we can do this once, we mesh our object, we go to simulation, then we go back to the drawing board, and we have to do this all over. This is not the way we could speed up or we can harness the potential of digital manufacturing. So we also see that there's a lack of there's what we call siloed knowledge, right? We have these simulation engineers, we have these mechanical engineers that have certain knowledge, but we see a lot of interdiscipline, inter-teams, miscommunication, and again, the bigger the problem, the bigger we see this happening. So, and then the third part is the skill set, right? So we see also, in order to create these very complex geometries, we see that in most tools on the market, you need specialists that need to go where tools have a very steep learning curve, have to go to years of experience in order to set up certain workflows, right? We say this is not how we can scale technology. In order to give people access to very complex geometries, we need to make software tools that are accessible to a larger audience. So that's what it's about. It's about accessibility. So we think that physics-driven engineering software is the key, right? But in order to make it scalable, it needs to be accessible. So what is our approach? Our approach is basically a threefold layer where we see the first step is technology. So technology is basically needed in order to make it work. The second part is the application, right? We have to give applications to people that can work with complex geometries without the need to have a certain expertise in a certain field. And the third part is the ecosystem. And the ecosystem is basically needed in order to make it work. We at Hyperganic were not able to do it ourselves. We rely on partnerships from OEMs, from material manufacturers, from research institutes to make this successful. So that's where I think like the true success of this is we need to set up partnerships in the industry. So let's start with the first catalyst, which is technology. So already briefly explained, we have a voxel engine, right? So what is a voxel engine? A voxel engine allows you to really, again, determine a material characteristic on a voxel level, which is very, very powerful, because going forward, we will be able to work with multi-materials. In other CAD softwares, you have a geometry engine, and then you have a simulation engine that works pretty different. So a year and a half ago, we decided to acquire a simulation company that basically works differently. We call it quasi-meshless, that allows us to output something fast in our geometry engine and immediately simulate it. So we don't have to go through a manual, labor-intensive process anymore. We can really explore a much larger solution space. So just see this as the geometry engine speaks the same language as our simulation engine. So we can set up feedback loops between these two. We can do this already for certain types of simulation, not for everything yet. But we can do this already for structural, electromagnetic, and electrostatic. We can do this for thermal, and we can, in the near future, we can also do this for CFD. So it opens up a lot of possibilities. So imagine even if you start from a CT scan, we could potentially convert this into voxels, and from this voxel, then we can immediately link our simulation capabilities to it. And for example, if you then want to explore a certain solution for a bone, for example, you could do this very, very fast with various iterations and various tests you can perform, and without even the need to be at your computer. You can just say, okay, optimize it, and it will do it by itself. So it's a very, very fast way, straightforward way. You don't need to be, again, an expert in simulation. It's what we make more accessible to our audience, right? So, first one is structural. We can already do linear simulations, right? Structural linear. So we can really explore, for example, auxetic materials in a very, very fast way. So it's not one solution we're exploring. We can potentially explore hundreds of solutions and run simulations on each of these variations separately, right? In this case, we just measure basic stresses, von Mises stresses, right? But we can optimize it very, very fast. So again, we can set up iteration loops, feedback loops that allow you to explore a certain problem much faster. The second one is electrostatic and electromagnetic. Same. We could potentially do this for multi-materials. So imagine electromotors has a very big potential. I'm not going to go too deep into it in this one because it's not really applying today. But of course, the holy grail for us is CFD, right? Imagine we could do this for CFD. So this is not something we're working on currently, where we can really connect our geometry engine to our simulation engine using CFD. So for any type of fluid, for example, we could potentially do this. So just imagine if you could do this also for post-processing. Imagine how for a finishing, right, set up your simulation, right, and you could actually see what's happening in there as well. So in this case, you see an example of a simulation-driven heat exchanger design, which is just a use case, but you could see the potential, right? That's what we were going for. Of course, we see this optimization, right? These feedback loops. So you can see here how it works. We can really set boundary conditions and then go through these feedback loops step by step. You can see here an example of a gyroid structure where we isolate certain areas. Again, these are tools that allow you to do this very easily. We have now in beta where we go through a solution where we could easily go through complex TPMS and lattice workflows without being a specialist in this. It allows you to create or transition between different types of TPMS structures. For example, you can go from a gyroid to a Schwartz T. You could then really adapt cell size, wall thickness. You can grade it. So it's very, very powerful tool and very, very accessible, I would say. So here you have an example we presented. It's a simple aluminum ring, but it shows you how you could set up this feedback loop. So you have basic boundary conditions, right? And then you want to optimize it for maximum heat dissipation. So in here, we go through 6 iterations, and each of these iterations is evaluated 30 times, right? So this allows us to do this fully automated, and we could then say, okay, we have an increase of 59 total heat dissipation. This runs on very simple machines, right? You don't need very high-end material, very high-end hardware to run this. You can go through this, I would say, very, very fast. Then, yeah, maybe a bit more related to the topic. Imagine here you have a simulation-driven approach for a bone and hip implant here. Again, we could do this for hundreds of designs. We can start from a CT scan, right? Optimize the CT scan we can say, okay, we have the gray and black and white areas, and we can really design a specific lattice for that, and then go through a wide range of solution and investigate the solution space much faster. And we could really do some basic evaluation, but you could also set up workflows where you go, for example, through porosity, right? Where you would investigate bone growth, things like that. So you have an immediate feedback on what you're doing. So this is just a use case to show you what potentially would be possible from the simulation side. So, of course, when we say technology, many people ask us, okay, you're working with generative design, but what about AI, right? So we started implementing AI a while ago. And the first iteration for us is what we call text to 3D, which is basically an AI helper where it allows you to prompt in a consecutive way. So you could, for example, say, design me a cube, infill it with a certain TPMS structure. Can you then now transition to another one? Can you reduce the cell size? So it's a helper. So imagine in certain CAD softwares, it will take you a lot of knowledge to do so. In here, it's as easy to just prompt it, just like you have ChatGPT, you could do it. And the output is very, very important. The output is engineering ready content that you could 3D print on your HP printer, for example. So is this a creative AI? No, not yet. So in order to have creative AI, you will need to have a very large data set to start from. So in this case, text to 3D is something we've implemented and we're testing now in beta, where we can help engineers to go to through a certain workflow, I would say. So just imagine a heat sink, for example. You could design a heat sink and go through a very large solution space without even touching your mouse. So that's where we're at for the moment. Of course, we're interested in the real power of AI. We want to leverage what AI can do. So how do we see this evolve? we see this as a creative text to 3D. That means, for example, that you could design a lattice structure based, for example, on performance and manufacturability. So in certain technologies, you know, you're going to have a certain depowdering issues, right? If your cell size is too small, creative AI will learn from what has been inputted into its system, right? And will start creating potentially new types of TPMS, new types of lattice geometries that start from certain metrics. One of them can be manufacturability, one can be lightweighting, it can be, for example, to be certain performance metrics, right? So that's where we see it evolving. The text to 3D becomes a creative text to 3D, right? So how do we also want to leverage AI is that we want to democratize certain domain-specific expertise. Things like CFD. CFD is very complicated. It takes a long time to learn how to leverage CFD, right? It's a specific domain where there's a lot of know-how, I would say siloed know-how. Using AI, we want to say, okay, we want to open up this sector for people that maybe are not specialized in simulation, right? So that's how we potentially see AI evolve. Of course, it's not something we do overnight. This will take, I would say, a long roadmap. Just imagine ChatGPT, right? ChatGPT is using trillions of data sets in engineering that doesn't exist yet. That's something you need to build. So this will take time, but we are confident from what we have right now, text to 3D, that we could go that direction. But it will indeed need a lot of data, and therefore we also see a lot of collaboration needed from the machine, the OEM side, from the material side. Imagine you want to print a specific lattice on an HP machine, right? That will be different from a lattice on another machine, on another material. So close collaboration will be needed in order to speed up this process. But we see AI as the next generation of solutions that could help an engineer. Is it a magic black box solution? No, it's something you need to build together with your engineers, together with your ecosystem. So that's where we see AI for the moment. So what are we doing for the moment? For the moment, we're in beta testing certain lattice applications. So we're setting up a tool called High Design. High Design is currently in beta, where we give a UI to our customers, very, very accessible. That means in less than 2 minutes, you're up to speed in creating complex TPMS, complex lattice structures. So if you want to do grading for example, insoles, for implants, for example, this could be a very, very accessible way. It's not days, it's not weeks, it's a question of minutes, and you're up to speed with the tool. So for us, it's really giving access to complexity through accessible software. So, and also what I have to say with this is that this is just the first iteration. Then we will open it up to simulation, to the code base. So we're really seeing it as a roadmap going forward. So where do we see ourselves? We see ourselves as an accessible software that tackles the issue of complexity. We are code-based, so everything starts from computer code and algorithms. But the question here is, not everybody is a coder, so how you make it accessible to a larger audience. That's what we're standing for. So we want to make it limitless, and we want to make it accessible. So the second part of what we say, what is the second catalyst is the application, right? The application needs to work for what you want to do. So I'll give you an example. What we are doing currently is we have a holistic approach. So we're doing things in thermal management, like things like heat exchangers, heat sinks. Why are they using computer code? Because complexity can potentially solve bigger issues like energy savings, lightweighting, things like that. Aerospace, maybe you've seen our aerospike engine, our injector heads. Complexity can enhance the performance of the part. Consumer goods, examples there are saddles, where you start from certain biometric data to modulate a saddle custom for the one who buys it, right? So it's really made to measure. This is a good example where, for example, you could go through an easy workflow starting from a certain input where you scan somebody's behind, and then you go through a certain workflow where you infill the saddle with a certain lattice, and that lattice then you modulate based on a heat map or a black and white grayscale map. So bioprinting, of course, extremely complex. Why is bioprinting interesting? Because of the mass customization. And we see a lot of mass customization projects here. It's still in its infancy, but we see a lot of potential there. So one application we have been working on together with a close partner of ours, it's BSF Forwards AM division, where we want to make the lattice more accessible. So imagine you're an insole manufacturer and you want to do something, you want to get rid of the original foam that you're using in your insoles, and you would like to have a more performant insole based on lattice. Where do we start, right? That's the question. You have so many different lattices, so many different modulation possibilities. Where do you start? So that's, I would say, the starting point of an on-premise app we developed for BSF, where we basically funnel down the amount of options for latticing and say, okay, this type of lattice with this type of modulation will give you more or less this sure A value, right? And this will be a validated lattice. So this is, you can see this as a material library coming from BSF is completely validated. So if you as an insole manufacturer know that this type of solution already works. So instead of thousands of options, you can already say, okay, for an insole, for protective gear, for helmets, this application with this lattice will work for me. So this is really downsizing the amount of options you have. So limiting also the validation and testing you need, and go much faster to market. So we call this zero to lattice. Basically, in 10 minutes, you'll be able to set up the workflow and have an immediate proof point around what you're doing. So who can do this? Anyone. You don't need any type of skill set to do this. Again, it's very accessible and very straightforward. So of course, you have the first step, which is I would say the material validation. So you could really say, I have this TPU that works on an HP machine with this lattice. Okay, this works for an insole, right? But you as an insole manufacturer, you're interested in doing end-to-end, right? You have a specific input that then needs to be converted into what we call canvas STL, a certain infill strategy, and then you want to make certain changes, and then you want to have a workflow that goes through a machine, right? So what we see in many companies that want to make the shift is, okay, they're afraid. Why? Because they don't really know how to set up a workflow. So you see on the left, these complex, I would say, nodes put together to set up a workflow, okay? But only, this is not really a scalable way of doing it. In the insole world, we know it's very fragmented. Everybody has its own way of measuring how a foot is. You have people that use 3D scanning, others use photogrammetry, others use basic measurements as an input. Then you need to go to, I would say, the STL creation of your insole, right? That's fit to your foot. Then you would go to a lattice infill strategy, and then you have the option, okay, we open it for medical insoles. In case of elite orthotics, I want to have certain metrics that me as a practitioner can change in an accessible way, right? So it's not a software that, again, has a very large learning curve, very accessible. And you could basically say, okay, I can put the metrics I want to change my insole. So again, this is one particular workflow, but you could set this up for many different types of inputs and also many different types of outputs. So in the case of Elite Orthotics, which is an Australian company, they reduced like this design time per insole to less than 5 minutes per insole. And also it's very accessible for their customers. So it's not only they have to go through a training program, it's almost a plug and play solution for practitioners to create medical insoles. And then the next step is to go to the machine, right? You want to have a nesting, an automated nesting, slicing, and go directly to the machine. So all of these things can set up automated end-to-end workflows. This can also be headless. For medical insoles, it makes most sense you have a UI that a practitioner can still make certain changes. But overall, you can also perfectly do this headless if you would need it. So for regular insoles, you see that many companies use a headless. So you have an input and you go all the way directly to the machine. So this is also possible. Then another application I briefly want to discuss is from the academic research, where we see these vascular systems that are very, very organic, very custom. Each object, each alveoli is different, right? You need to route almost like mini cooling channels around this. It's like microfluidic networks you need to design. Start with this in CAD software is almost impossible. So again, we developed an application that is very accessible to do something very complex in a very custom way. So they can explore thousands of options and send it directly to the printer of choice, right? So you could set it up. Also, you can encode, for example, certain workflows for a specific printer, taking already additive manufacturing constraints in consideration very early on. So okay, this is every solution that comes out of this application will be manufacturable, for example. So this is an application from ETH Zurich that they're using on a daily basis. So the last one I wanted to discuss after technology and application is, of course, in order to make this work, Hyperganic can't do this alone. So we've set up an ecosystem of partners, and we're continuously looking for new partners all over the world, from academic research, industrial research, OEMs, material manufacturers. In order to set up successful workflows, we need to partner up. We need to share data, and we need to go for these end-to-end workflows. So that's how we see successful change can happen in engineering when we catalyze collaborations to this global growth-oriented ecosystem, right? So that's where we stand for. So I think I'll leave it here, but that's basically where we see where change is needed from our side. So with this, I give the floor back to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Joris. Thank you very much. That's very, very exciting. And thank you for joining us, for educating our customers. And we hope we can work together, provide solution. I want to thank you all for attending this short webinar. What we have done or tried to do in last 1.5 hours is provide you from concept or from a requirement to a final product journey. Okay, and we understand this is complicated. This requires trained manpower, and that's why we have both our partner Hyperganic as well as Premium attending and presenting. We will request you to, when you go back, to look at opportunities where you can use the technology without getting too much concerned about what printer you have, what printer to buy. Nothing of that sort is required at this juncture. You can involve us, and we will work with you to provide you turnkey solution and a better patient outcome. And as your confidence grows on the technology is when we'll be more than happy to discuss implementing this solution in your organization. If you have a requirement, definitely we are more than happy to address. But the intention of today's seminar was to impart information, share our success stories of what we have been doing globally and also in India. And the hope is that you found it useful. The recording of this webinar will be available, and we will be sharing it with you so that you can disseminate this information to all your colleagues. With that, I hand over to Anil.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Rajat. I think a great set of sessions. I do hope that all the delegates found it useful. If you do have any questions, just post them in the chat window and we can take them now. Because we still have some time left so that we can, do some quick Q&A for this. So if there's any questions, let me know. Some questions I did get, Rajat, some basic questions. Let me start off with those while people are actually, maybe thinking about posting their questions. One is, of course, the cost of, a lot of this 3D printing versus the traditional methods that most of these, hospitals and doctors would actually be using. So you want to comment on that as to, how it will be more cost effective as compared to traditional methods? So it's a
Yeah.
question to all, anybody can answer.
So it will on an absolute cost basis, this will be more expensive in the sense that when you are doing a customized fit for any patient, it will be a little more expensive than something which is generic. Like if you buy a generic shoe from the market versus a custom shoe, the price varies, right? But having said that, because you are not investing right now on the equipment and you're using our partner's facility to work on it, we can work on aggressive pricing for your output product so that that option is there. The key for us today is not about making money or profit, but is to get India to adopt these technology. We have been stuck on solutions like Jaipur Foot for a long time. Not that it's bad, it's with 150 crore population, we definitely need that solution. But there are patients who require a better fitting, probably because they can afford it. One, B, they have a use case where like they're into sports, they want to still participate even if they're differently challenged, but they want to participate in sport. Or there could be a complication and they require surgery, as Franklin gave a lot of examples. So go with that confidence today that there is a group of players or ecosystem leaders who are ready to work with you to get this technology adopted. Don't worry on too much on the cost because globally this is being used. So there is a ROI which is already proven for these set of solution.
Yeah, considering that you mentioned about going through partners like we have with us today. So which basically means that doctors can actually order a lot of things to them, and they can actually customize it as per the requirement and share it.
Yeah, because I cannot get a profile of the participants on the fly, but let me just give you one example. For example, if you have series of clinics, okay, and you want to implement this technology, all you have to do is basically invest in, like everybody has a cell phone or a tablet at the clinic. You need to just have a piece of software on your hand phone or a tablet. The doctor will scan it. These scans will be uploaded to the cloud. That will be picked up by our organization like Premium, and they will create the part for you along with the doctors who are giving the medical care. So all you require is the data collection point to start with, and then once your workflow is proven, then obviously you can have a production site. But at present, you can just upload the data, and then you have the capability of also creating custom catalogs. So, for example, India feet might have a peculiar similarity, and for that you could have custom insoles and things like that. So there is a possibility of having customization for patients who require that one, and there could be a volume general play which you provide for patient's care. Like somebody if has a collarbone fracture and you use a bandage 8 for supporting a collarbone, that can be 3D printed as scoliosis and given to the patient. So all that work can be done. So whether you have series of multiple clinics or you are a hospital or you are a chain of hospital, we will like to partner with you, and that partnership could be in terms of individual cases or could be a generic MOU to collaborate across maybe a few years together to bring this technology. And we have partners like Hyperganic who can help us with generative design, lightweighting, and other areas. So it comes to you as a full package on the inner envelope kind of a solution.
Yeah, thanks, Rajat. Just another question on that. Is there any limitation the size of parts that can be printed? Is it suitable only for small parts of an anatomy, or it is not it's
No,
agnostic
so
about that?
so we work with the surgeon. There's no limitation because there are techniques which are available. So we work with the surgeon or orthopedic doctors to fit in. Like these are very proven. Like if somebody needs a case study, you can just write to me at rajat.mehta@hp.com and I can send you series of case studies which are available on YouTube from HP, from Hyperganics, from Premium to get you that knowledge base and see how other doctors globally are using it. In India, I have interacted with few customers like Endolite who are basically importing some of these sockets from outside. They do a lot of manual work, which I discussed, but for 3D printed, they're importing it. But our view is that we have enough capacity in India, and HP is promoting very strongly make in India, made in India atmosphere right now. So we'll be more than happy to do it in India, and people from Southeast Asia, that holds true for you, that we want to do local production. So we have two service bureaus in Singapore who can provide you with services. Same is the case with Australia. We have enough bandwidth and capacity in Australia to do it for the Australian customer. So irrespective of the location, we are promoting local manufacturing because it generates employment and also empowers doctors locally, and you don't have to depend on imports.
Yeah, thanks, Rajat. Thanks, Franklin and Joris, for the great sessions. In case anybody has any questions, please you can ask us after this. Also, you can write to us, and we'll be happy to also share it with our partners so that we can get you the answers. I think great set of sessions. Thanks for joining us today, and some people are requested for a copy of the presentation also, but I think, as Rajat mentioned, that we will make it available on demand so that, you can refer to it at any point of time. So with that, we come to the end of the webinar. Please do share your feedback. And as soon as you close this window, a feedback form will pop up in the browser window. Do fill it up and let us know what you think and how you found it, and do let us know how we can help you, and any questions you may have, you can ask us those. So thanks once again to everyone. I think Rajat has shared his email ID in the chat window, so you can make a note of that right now. In case you have any questions, you can write to him directly. So thanks once again. Thanks, Franklin. Thanks, Joris. I think it's been a great set of sessions. To the audience, thank you so much, and
thank you so much.
Thank you, Rajat. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
So much. Thank you.
Have a nice day.
Bye.